Hello. So I've just flown back from Malta, helping the Maltese government set up their security operations centre, and I started writing these slides at the airport at 3 a.m. and finished them this morning at 8:30 a.m. at home. I'm underdressed, I'm in front of 300 people, and I need the toilet. What could possibly go wrong? So anyway, quickly about me. As very politely said earlier, I am the Operations Director, Managing Director of Samurai Digital Security Limited. I'm not going to do a sales pitch to you, but please come and talk to me and take a business card off me. I'm also a special officer working with the National Crime Agency, the National Cybercrime Unit. So I work with those guys to try and help unravel problems with serious crime that's caused through cyber issues, so cybercrime essentially. I was part of the team, and I don't know if many of you are aware of the spin-off group from Anonymous that was called Lulzsec, that was responsible for the hacking of the FBI, the US Senate, Sony. They hacked the Sun newspaper and reported that Tupac was alive and well and living in New Zealand, and that got some global attention. And they were causing quite a bit of a nuisance. So I was asked by it was actually the New Scotland Yard that called me down to help them out with that, to try and get hold of those guys, and we did. We got them. Now two of them work with me, so it turned out quite nicely, and I've been forgiven as well, apparently. So I've spent 13 years as an academic working at different universities, the University of Derby for a while, Sheffield Hallam University, most recently at De Montfort University. That takes up a small part of my role. Obviously, I can't do it full-time because of my commitments with Samurai. I'm also a visiting lecturer at Warwick University as well, helping them with some of the training and teaching they do overseas. And I've done some media stuff as well. A lot of it actually was off the back of the Lulzsec case. So what's this talk going to be about? It's not going to be about GDPR. I've done many GDPR talks, and I'm totally GDPR'd out, and I've got a hunch that maybe you guys are as well. So it's not going to be a GDPR talk. It is, however, going to be a talk about people, about our inability to make the right decisions and our ability to have to invest in our staff to ensure that mistakes aren't made. You know, the majority of breaches that happen, the majority of security incidents that happen are to do with our staff making errors. And I'm not putting the blame on them, by the way. I'm putting the blame on us for not appropriately educating them and giving them the appropriate resources to make sure that they don't fall foul of phishing and other social engineering efforts. And that's principally what we're going to talk about for the next 25 minutes, I guess. So what the biggest security risks are and what we can do about it. So then there's the workshop that's going to follow that for those of you that decide to come along to the workshop, and I've been told that I need to try to sell it to you to come to the workshop. So very quick sales pitch. The workshop's going to be focusing, I guess from a managerial point of view, it might be quite useful in terms of thinking about, you know, how to best motivate and how to best ensure that your staff don't fall foul to the issues of cyber error, if you like, clicking on links, falling foul of very well-engineered, socially engineered campaigns. So, and to do that, there's going to be a little bit of InfoSec psychology. That's my pet subject. I like a bit of psychology, and I like combining that with InfoSec, finding out what makes our minds tick. What is it that makes us click that link? What is it that makes us trust that person on the phone? What is it that makes us make strange decisions when it comes to risk? So that's what we'll be doing. Oh, an iPad. Apparently you can win an iPad if you come to our workshop. And I find that ironic because it sounds just like a phishing campaign, doesn't it? Win a free iPad if you come to our workshop. But it's not a fish, it's a genuine offer. You can win an iPad. All you have to do is give me your banking details and you can sort that out. So I've used this screenshot because it's one of the most commonly used methods of phishing is the sign into to Gmail web page. It's a great one to make people fall for that. You click on something, you try to get your email, and this page comes up, and you put your details in. It looks exactly like the real Gmail's email. You enter your details, and that's it. Bad guy has got them. So I was asked to put some statistics in. So here's some statistics. So yeah, 400 businesses per day targeted by spear phishing. So spear phishing is a more intelligent version of phishing where the bad guys will use LinkedIn, they'll use your Twitter accounts, they'll use your Facebook accounts, they'll use the Facebook accounts and the Twitter accounts and the LinkedIn accounts of your friends and of your family as well to try and gather a profile of you. And they will go for the managers. That's what they're aiming for. The decision makers, the people with the ability to transfer money and to, in some way, give them what they want. 76% of organizations said they experienced phishing attacks in 2017. I find that quite low as a figure. I would be quite surprised, actually, if I asked in this room who hadn't had a phishing attempt. I would think the vast majority, I mean, I would be amazed if anybody hadn't received a phishing attempt at some point. So I actually find that figure quite low, but still nevertheless quite worrying. Phishing emails have an open rate of 30%. That's including some of the really poor ones, by the way. You'd be amazed at, you know, some of the uneducated and badly developed phishing emails that do still get clicked on. But of course, you have to remember now, and you know, the days of the Nigerian prince are over. You know, they're done. You know, these are sophisticated, well thought out, intelligent, poised, targeted attempts to get hold of your data. 92.4% of malware delivered via email. That's the primary method that you are going to get infected. You're worried about ransomware. You need to be worried about phishing. You need to be worried about your email. 9 out of 10 phishing emails include ransomware in the payload. Ransomware right now is your biggest threat, in my view. I see it all the time, all the time. A lot of organizations I go to see, that's why I'm going to see them. We've been caught by ransomware. What can you do? Help. And the pain that it causes is tangible. You know, the heartache that it can cause. Your system's down for days, sometimes a week or more, depending on who your IT outsourcer is. Backups haven't been checked properly, the backups aren't working, email's down, businesses operating through email. It's a difficulty, a real issue. So these are all the risks, the potential risks, and I haven't got time to sort of go through them all in detail. I'll tell you about the land turtle later, that's quite interesting. But these are the things. I'm going to flick over slides that have a little bit on each of these elements. So yeah, we've done work with, it mentions a Ford dealership there. It wasn't a Ford dealership that we worked with, but we have worked with a number of car manufacturing organizations. And, you know, can you guess what the most common passwords are? So as part of the service, when we work with them as a penetration test, for example, is we will crack their passwords so we can have a look at their password lists. And so with car manufacturers, starting with a word list of car types is a good place to start. So that isn't an example of a good password. Company founded in 1980, a number is needed in the password. Pretty good shot that you're going to get 1980 or 80 as that number in the password as well. So this is interesting. We talk about complexity. I'm going to come back to that in a minute. We have this problem, don't we? This conflict between complexity and the ability to be remembered in terms of passwords. So we're all trying to do it, aren't we? We all know that what we should do is make these complex passwords, but they're so difficult to remember. So we don't do it, right? But we can make our passwords secure without making them difficult to remember, and I'll come to that in a moment. Don't make them linked to anything personal. You know, I hope I'm preaching to the converted with that one, but we still do it, and it still happens. You know, you call your password the name of your dog, and then you talk about your dog by its name on social media. Use your children's names, use your children's birth dates. All this information can be harvested from you, from Facebook, from Twitter, from LinkedIn, from the various social media outlets. And trust me, if you've got your fingers on the purse strings, they will do this. They will make the effort to do this. I've sat in room. There was some work that we did with a charity recently. I won't mention which one, but it's a very, very large charity. And I had to sit in the room with the guy who transferred in front of his bosses, who transferred £18,000 out of the account into the account of somebody committing fraud, because the person committing fraud was pretty smart. The person committing fraud knew that his boss was away on business because the guide said so on LinkedIn. So he knew he was out on business. He then emails him from a Gmail account with this guy's name and says, we need this money transferring immediately. As you know, I'm out of the country at the moment. My internet access is a bit iffy. And he convinced the guy to transfer this £18,000. And if you think you won't fall for it, these guys are really, really clever. They'll even spoof, and this is easy technology, by the way, very simple to do, to impersonate somebody's mobile phone number, their SMS number. If they have, any of you here, if you sent me your mobile number, I can send an email as you, right? Very, very easily. Simple tool that will do this. And they'll do that too. They'll say, just sending you a text just to let you know that is me, right? They are smart. Poor guy. And they never got the money back, by the way. The bank dug the heels in and said, you authorised it, that's it. So let's talk passwords. I guess some of you may have seen this, right? Maybe. Okay, with the password thing. We've done this really brilliant job, haven't we, of making passwords terrible. We've made them difficult to remember, and we've made them easy to crack. We've stuck all this complexity in. You know, zeros as O's as zeros, and ampersands and threes as E's to try and do number letter elite speak. They talk it number letter substitution. And what we end up with actually is this really impossible to remember password. And when you look at the example they've given there, actually not that difficult to crack from a brute force perspective because it's relatively short. So what we've done is we've done this fantastic way of making passwords impossible to remember and easy to crack. Brilliant. We've been geniuses. The guy who came up with this idea, by the way, apologized. He said, look, I'm really sorry. It was something, I think he was on radio at the time when he got asked, and he said, I was caught on the spot, so I just made something up. He said, well, how do we do a secure password? Because I just made it up. He says, I've regretted it ever since, because everybody latched onto it. So one of the bits of information they give to us now is you're better to use maybe 3 or perhaps even better 4 or 5 words that you remember. Lyrics to a song, maybe, but if you do that, don't make sure that people don't know who your favourite band is on your social media account. Or another group of 4 or 5 words that you can put together that you will remember. But you put 4 or 5 words together, and it's a long password. It's the length that is more important than the complexity. It's the length that makes it difficult to crack. Make it easy to remember, but long. Put the spaces in between the words. That'll muck them about. Trust me, we crack passwords. You'd be amazed. And there's lists. There's a list. There's a list that's commonly used in the hacking community called RockYou. And it's basically millions of passwords, common passwords. It's been gathered together from all the sites that have been hacked, all the passwords that people have got hold of, dumped into this one massive password list. And in every time somebody tries to crack your passwords, they start with that list. It's incredible how many people drop into that list. There's millions of them. Good chance your password's in there. Make them long. Not complex, long. So using words is good. It's better, but it's not perfect, because hackers have dictionaries too. So again, try to avoid words, but it is much harder. It is much, much harder to crack them. But try and avoid words that involve anything to do with you personally. And for the love of all that's holy, please don't use the same password on multiple sites. Don't do it. I know you've heard it before, but really, really, really don't do it. Why? This site's great for telling you why. Don't do it now, by the way, because the temptation would be to go to this site and have a quick look. But this site will tell you if your email has been in one of the common breaches that have taken place. Okay? Also, don't use it if you've ever registered with Ashley Madison. I'll ask you that. If there's anybody in front of you who sees you doing that, that's not a good one, that. So it's called Have I Been Pwned? And if you go to that website, type in your email address, and it will tell you whether your email address has been compromised as part of a breach. So, this is an email address. I don't use it anymore, and I have changed the password on it. But at some point, it has been pwned. And of course, it's Adobe. It's always Adobe's fault. Adobe got breached, and my username and password was made public. And the bad guys have access to all of these. So if you're using the same password on multiple accounts, the bad guys only need to have got it from one source. Have I been pwned? And if you want to, we're going to be playing with this more in the workshop. So if you want to come to the workshop, we can have some fun with this. Other solutions are available: biometrics, face, fingerprint, retina, authentication apps. We've seen these. They're good. We're improving. We're getting there, but they're still not perfect. Can they be compromised? Biometrics, yes. Okay, so the face, there's techniques in place to try and make it more difficult, but photos can, in some cases, still work to authenticate. Fingerprint, there's sellotape stuck over where your fingerprint's been and taken off to make a replica of your fingerprint. That happens and has happened. Retina scans are probably particularly with the new, I've got the new Samsung S9, and the retina scan on that is very good, actually. So that does become difficult, but some people have a problem with it, don't they? It's a bit intrusive, do you think, scanning your retina? Some people think so. I'm not so sure. But they can be compromised. The problem is it's still data, right? So a retina scan is still data. It's still grabbing your retina, taking that image, and turning it into zeros and ones. Those zeros and ones can still be stolen. So here's the problem, right? So let's think about why passwords still exist when we have all these great technologies. Let's say your what do you do? Let me think about it. What do you do? If your password gets compromised, what do you do? Change it, right? You change your password, first thing you do. What if your retina data got stolen? What are you going to do? Yeah? What if your fingerprint data got stolen? There's going to be a lot of fingerless blind people around, isn't there? So it's not that easy. Oh dear, we see this a lot. So part of our job is to try to get into websites and compromise them, ethically, obviously, with people's permission. The guys that we work with that were part of LulzSec, they're good now. We've converted them. We've turned them into Jedis rather than Siths. So that's a good password, that. Eggnog is not green. That's quite long. I'd have put the spaces between, but that's okay. But then it's got like a reset question, which might be, where were you born? Birmingham. Okay, reset your password. Right? Terrible. But you have to think about this. What you can do, of course, is put something ridiculous in there. So if the question is, where were you born, you could put Cocoa Pops. But as long as you know what you put in there, that can do it, right? And you make a note of it. But yeah, you can be caught out with the secret answer, so just be mindful of it. Mobile phones, how am I doing for time? I'm okay, okay. Mobile phones, so password managers, they're great on mobile phones, okay? So you have one password to get to all of your passwords. Obviously, make sure that one password is really, really secure. Actually, while I'm on that point, I'm just going to tell you something that's a big concern as well. This happened to me. It was a very painful experience. I have a password manager. All of my passwords are in that password manager. All of them. That's my life, right? And they're complex, so I can't remember them. my password manager, right, has a feature where you can choose to either put a long password in to get in, or you can use your fingerprint, right? And it has a little button, little box that says, tick here to use fingerprint. So I thought, you know what, fingerprint's not bad. Right? I shouldn't really, but I thought it'll do the job. Fingerprint then. So I engaged the fingerprint option. Right, so fingerprint to get in it. So 6 months go past. I've been using my fingerprint to get in it. Then I accidentally catch the button that says, use fingerprint recognition, and I uncheck it by mistake. The next time I go in, it asks for the password. I've not typed it for 6 months. What is it? What is it? There was sweat. I remember I was actually on the way to De Montfort University at the time when it happened, and I was literally perspiring, trying to remember the password. And eventually, not that day, the next day, when I'd given up all hope, it suddenly went, and I remembered it. So just watch for that as well if you use a password manager. Don't do that mistake, it's very painful. But lock it down, lock your mobile phone down. So if you have a password manager, all that information's in your phone, lock it down. Really strong password on your phone to get into it, or use biometrics. Full disk encrypt it, dead easy. iPhones do it automatically. If you're an iPhone user, well done, that's it. You don't have to worry about that. It's full disk encrypted from the off. If you're an Android user, most of them are, Samsungs are, but check and make sure it's full disk encrypted, because if somebody nicks it, you're in trouble. If your life is on that phone and they have all your passwords and everything else, maybe you've got business banking on there, etc. Back your password manager up to the cloud. Why? Because if it's just on your phone and you lose your phone or your phone gets nicked, you're in dire trouble because you can't get it back. So you might think, yeah, but the cloud's not secure. Trust me, it's more secure than your mobile phone is in your hands. You can't lose the cloud so easily on a train. Okay, so there we go. That's that. Okay, so phishing. Quick bit on phishing. Very quickly, we all know what it is. Always check the URL in any email that comes in. You've got to watch it on phones because it doesn't always come out and show you on a phone, right? You have to go through a few extra steps to see it on a phone. Don't trust it based on how it looks. You know, like I say, Nigerian prints done. These are beautifully. Some of them are forms of art. They're so well crafted now. 3 examples of PayPal here, all slightly different, but they all look right. And trust me, you know, you go to click on something that says use PayPal from a site, that site could be infected. Somebody can very easily drop in a little link or a little iframe, I won't go into technical details, which says click here to use PayPal. On any e-commerce site, if it's been compromised, that can happen. You click on it, you think you're logging into PayPal, you're not, you're logging into one of the fake PayPals, like one of these, and that's it. They've got access to your account details. I'm going to level with you. It happened to me. I'm human too, right? I got caught. I got a PayPal account compromised through doing this. It was a few years ago. I'm trying to backpedal a little now, but it did happen. Check the URL. Check the URL. Have a look at the address. Make sure it's right. The other thing with phishing as well, just quickly, take it out of band. Right? And what we mean by that is if you get an email come in and it's telling you to transfer some money somewhere, phone the person. Talk to them on the phone. Hear their voice. Although, you know, they are. Ryan is one of the law set guys who did tell me that they used to deliberately phone up companies and get their boss mad so they could learn what their angry boss sounded like, so that they could then phone up to try and impersonate their boss being really angry to try and get their employees to do things. It does go on, but let's control what we can, right? If you phone up and talk to the people, it's better. Because then you've taken it away from the area where the bad guys can influence this. Some examples, I think I might be going on, I don't know if I've gone on too long, but there's some examples, so I won't dwell on them for too long. But PayPal is one of them, and I've been caught by PayPal ones before. Again, this is another one here, which is this is HMRC, where they've tried to use emotion to elicit a response. So they're actually trying to say, you know, you're going to get some money. So the two things they do with phishing, right? The two things they do, they either frighten you, or they make you think you've got some cash coming. They're the two main ones, right? HMRC is great for both. Right? Tax inspection. No, for the love of, please, no. Tax inspections, you've got some money coming. HMRC, they love HMRC. So again, with this one, this is somebody, an email that's come in saying, look, we're gonna give you some money. Again, check the URL. You can see that URL isn't from HMRC, but be careful here because the bad guys will make them very similar. So we do phishing campaigns for companies to try and see what level you're at. Sometimes we can actually use your own domain name. We can actually send an email from somebody within your organization to somebody else within your organization. About 30, 40% of the time, there's a security vulnerability that allows us to do that. When we can't do that, we register domain names that look almost exactly the same as your domain name. Like we might use, I's for L's work quite well in certain fonts, they look identical. So we'll do that as well. Because we're impersonating what the bad guys do. This one's actually pretty poor because you can see from the URL and the domain name, it's clearly nothing to do with HMRC. Interesting though, what you can see on that is if you do look at the domain name, it's umn.edu. That's the University of Minnesota. University of Minnesota's email server has been compromised and that email's been sent from their mail server. So that if somebody does latch onto them and the police go kicking in doors, they'll be kicking in the doors of University of Minnesota. Not that difficult to do that. Other things to look out for, website pop-ups, fake antivirus. Here's some free antivirus. Click here, we'll install this antivirus for free, and what it will do is it'll install rootkits and all kinds of nasty malware on your machine. Pretending to be law enforcement is popular. That the bit in the right-hand side of the pane there, your computer has been locked, you've been looking at porn, you need to pay this amount of money to get your account unlocked. Nonsense, obviously. Please don't do that. Fake infections, your machine's been infected, you may have seen this as well. Your machine's been, click here to fix it. You click there, it goes to a malicious site which installs malware on your machine. Using fear as a driver, that's what's happening here, frightening you. So the other one, the HMRC one, was showing you, get something free. And this is fear, to try and drive you to do something. Sometimes they can do legitimate things. So this is a vehicle tax claim one. So this is like somebody saying you can get some money back from your tax. Now it's true, and actually this is legal, they can do this. You can actually claim the tax back for free. But there's people that say they'll claim the tax back for you and claim a few quid out of it while they're at it. But they won't really inform you that they're a third party sitting in the middle and you can do it for free. They'll just scam you. And actually, they're not breaking the law. You can't even prosecute these guys. Because they just say, hey, we're offering a service and we said what it cost. What things to watch out for. What can you do? Yes, up-to-date browser. Definitely make sure Firefox, Mozilla, Chrome, Internet Explorer. Why would you be using that? I don't know. Internet Explorer, Edge, or whatever browser is your personal choice. Make sure it's up to date because it's a great way for malware to get onto your system via the browser. Keep your PC patched, of course. Whoever your IT guys are, make sure they're on top of that. Make sure they're using software update services or some other method to roll patches out. Obviously, don't click on suspicious links, but be mindful that they're very clever now with these. Close your site down and your browser down immediately if you're worried. Don't respond to emotional pressure. If it's too good to be true, it probably is. Be suspicious. Be wary. Don't trust anyone. It's easy for me. That's in my nature. But if you're a trusting person, fight against that impulse. Bad places, blacklist them. Your IT guys should be able to sort that out. Okay, all right, quick one. I'm nearly there now. We're nearly there. 5 more slides. So, dangerous turtles. There's a thing called a land turtle, right? It's a bit of kit that we love in cybersecurity. Looks like a USB stick. Plug it in, harvests everything. All your creds. Dials out. Goes over the internet, sends them all to us. It's wonderful. We love it. But people leave them in car parks. People leave them on the stairs. People leave them places so that you will intentionally pick them up and plug them in. And then they'll harvest your credentials. So, our friend Ryan, if you're interested in the sort of the history of hacking groups, by the way, Ryan was Kayla from Lulzsec. He was the guy pretending to be a 16-year-old girl. He developed, it's only a couple of slides time I mentioned it, but he developed a mouse, right? So it looked like a standard normal mouse. Inside it was the technology of a land turtle and a few other bits and pieces too. And one of our tricks that we use is we'll drop them in as free gifts into reception. We'll say, oh, I've just bought you this mouse. We're trying it out. We want to know what you think of it. Please, can you give us some feedback? You know, and it's a beautiful piece of looking mouse, all ergonomic, all the trackable, all the stuff on it. As soon as it's plugged in, boom, we get the lot, everything. All the creds get sent out via the phone to us. To make matters worse, we then send them onto a website where they can give their feedback. The website has, it's not malicious malware, but it allows us to do further tracking and monitoring of their systems. So we get them twice. How often does it work? Really often. Really, really often. People love free stuff. Don't trust free stuff. If it plugs into your machine and it's free, be careful. Physical access, also very, very important to be careful of this, just as important as your actual systems themselves. People walking into your building, tailgating in. We do this as well. We have a guy who's brilliant at it, actually. He dresses really, really smartly. Like you guys, not like me. He dresses really smartly. And he looks so corporate. He's got like the touch of silver in his hair. He's a good-looking bloke. And he's brilliant, right? Really shiny shoes and that. And he tailgates people in, but one of his best tricks is he smokes. And he hangs around near the fire exit having a cigarette. And then the guys come down to have a cigarette, so he has a cigarette too with him. Oh, yeah, I've just started, yeah, what do you think of so-and-so? Because he knows a bit, because he's done his research before he's gone along. They all go up, he follows them up. Gets his laptop out, plugs in, starts harvesting creds, starts doing vulnerability checks. Okay, he has permission, and we have a letter that says he has permission that he keeps with him at all times. And then, times he gets caught, he gets his letter out, and they still go berserk at him. Because it's human nature when you've been duped to be like that. We often phone to him and he goes, they've thrown me out. I said, of course they've thrown you out. So yeah, you want to be mindful of that. We clone cards as well. So, you know, we'll set up little fake coffee vending places near the entrance, and people will come in and they'll pay. But we'll have a card grabber, and we'll grab the actual tag ID that they used to get in as well. And we can use that to then get in as well. So we have that's what we do, but it's what the bad guys do as well. We're just mirroring what the bad guys do to let you know that this is the things that go on. Posing as an IT outsourcer. So you find out who the IT outsourcer is for the company, you create a badge. It looks exactly like their badge. No different. You walk in, you say, yeah, I'm so-and-so from so-and-such. Just need to go and fix the antivirus on whatever machine you're in. And then what we do is we get photographs of people walking out with laptops and all sorts of things. And we use that to feed back the vulnerability. But it's something you've got to watch. It's just as important. I talked about that. And I think, I'm not going to go through this, but this is quite good. It's actually somebody being, that previous slide was somebody being, the call from Windows. Anybody had that one? Yeah, we're from Windows. Yeah, so a guy recorded the whole thing. It's online. You want to listen to it. It's quite funny. So what can you do? Staff training, social awareness training, train guys not to fall for these tricks, physical penetration tests, system penetration tests, full spectrum attack simulation, which is all of the above plus some more. We have Ryan sitting like half a mile away with a massive antenna grabbing your Wi-Fi handshake passwords, taking them away and cracking them on his systems. But if you want to know more about this, not just the technologies, but also the psychology behind why we make these mistakes, come to the workshop, please. That's where all the fun's going to happen. Thanks very much. Thanks very, very much for your time.
So the name of the football team I support with a few numbers is not perhaps a good idea for passwords.